Let's now continue with our class on the Bodhisattva Charivatara. As today, I have some special conditions. There are some special cases, so maybe my particular teaching won't be that present, but we'll see. I think it's better not to stop our transmission. Let us now continue our class on the 37 practices of Bodhisattva. Today we will get into the main content, where the teachings to the practitioners of the three capacities will be expounded. Among the 3 points of the main part demonstrating the path of the 3 kinds of beings, first is the path of the lesser beings who give up wrongdoing after having become frightened by the suffering of the lower realms. Then later we will look at the middle incapacitated beings that would not grasp onto the 3 existence, rather would seek for liberation. And then the third one, which is the superior beings, or of the higher capacity, that would practice on compassion and empty, the union of compassion and emptiness, to attain liberation from the extremes of samsara and nirvana. Today we will look at the lesser vehicle, the beings of the lesser vehicle, or the lesser beings that gives up wrongdoing after having become frightened by the suffering of the lower realms. As a practitioner, in order to come to any fruition, in order to have any attainments, we need to, first of all, pick a path according to your own capacity. Let's look at the lesser beings. All the sufferings of the lower realms are so extremely difficult to bear, are taught by the sage to be the fruit of one's evil actions. Therefore, it is the practice of the bodhisattvas to constantly refrain from evil actions, even at the cost of one's life. The beings of the lesser path by merely hearing the suffering of the 3 lower realms induce fear. And when it actually befalls one, it is extremely difficult to bear. These sufferings of beings tormented by excruciating sensations are taught by the omniscient sage, who possess the power to perceive the myriad karmic actions and their results as not being uncaused and not occurring from the disordinate causes. They are the fruit of evil actions, such as the 10 non-virtuous deeds. All the sufferings that people endure do not occur because of the lack of cause or conditions. Rather, they're the fruit of evil actions that's being conducted before. Such are the 10 non-virtuous deeds. Therefore, to refrain from ever undertaking evil non-virtuous deeds, even at the cost of one's life, is the practice whereby bodhisattvas engage in accepting good actions and rejecting evil actions. This is, in fact, quite important to remember. Many of whom consider themselves as Mahayana practitioners, but when it comes to carrying out non-virtuous deeds, they are of no fear, and they would superficially just pay lip service by stating that I do believe in causes and conditions, I do believe in the truth of karma. But those are just superficial claims. If you do not contemplate, if you do not truly believe that after carrying out evil deeds, then the evil fruition would definitely be matured. If you do not believe that after carrying out non-virtuous deeds, you would suffer from such fruition of being reborn in hell realm, hungry ghost realm, and animal realm for eons and aeons to endure the suffering that's associated to those different realms, then you would definitely carry out lots of non-virtuous deeds. from the precious garland of the middle way, thinking of what a single day is like in the hell realms of extreme heat or cold. Also remembering the hungry ghosts so emaciated due to hunger and thirst. Look at and recall the animals whose deluded sufferings are exceedingly numerous. There are 18 classes of hell realms, 3 classes of hungry ghost realms, and 2 classes of animal realms. It is certain that there are sufferings such as those of heat and cold, hunger and thirst, and of eating one another are all the results of non-virtue. Whenever we watch the TV shows of animal world, for example, any videos that portrays the animal world, we would be very clear of how animals would eat each other. And then we can also contemplate upon the suffering of hungry ghosts and the sufferings in hell realm. All of those kinds of sufferings come from causes and then ripes in such kinds of fruitions. And these fruitions were because of the non-virtuous deeds that's conducted by beings in the past. And then it also says that all sufferings arise from non-virtue in the same way, so do all the lower realms. I think people who believe in causes and fruitions, they would believe in it even without too much of emphasis of it. But people don't believe in karma, then doesn't even matter how many times I would emphasize on the truth of causes and conditions, they would not listen to me. But my requirement is that I really hope that you can read and practice upon the memorandum of the preliminary practices of the words of my perfect teacher. You can definitely understand it. That text is very easy to understand. But the key is that can we actually carry it out in our deeds, in our daily actions? Do you actually have fear to the causes and conditions and fruition of whatever kinds of deeds you carry out? This is really crucial. Nowadays, not many people have such kind of fearful mind towards karma. Then even if Buddha were to stand in front of such a person, such kind of person would not be able to get any benefit, and the Buddha would not be able to save that kind of person. In the way of the Bodhisattva states the following: misery, mental discomfort, all different kinds of fear, being separated from what we desire, all happen because of our evil behavior. In order to attain liberation, we need to try our very best not to carry out any further non-virtuous deeds. We need to also confess all the negative deeds that we've conducted in the past. This is how we need to contemplate upon karma, as well as how can I be definitely freed from non-virtue, the cause of my suffering. On all occasions, day and night, I shall only be concerned with this. We need to think about the karma. There is the general contemplation and the individual contemplation. The general contemplation is then divided into... The contemplation of karma, cause and effect, is important. As for the general reflection of the cause of the results of karma, it is the cause that first karmic actions certain, and second karmic actions proliferate, third one will not encounter with what has not been done, and fourth that which has been done will not dissipate. As for the specific reflection upon karma and the result, there are roughly summarized the 10 non-virtuous ways of behaving and their opposites, the 10 virtuous deeds. Each of these has its individual effects, such as the result of complete ripening, the result of resembling the cause, and the predominating result, and so forth. Most importantly, having pondered the way in which these effects must be experienced, each of them distinctively, we should give birth to a trusting faith in karma and its result. If we think about suffering of samsara, we will give rise to renunciation and compassion. If we ponder karma and its effects, Then, through confident faith, we will engage in the correct way of accepting and rejecting. These are the benefits of contemplating these points. So first of all, the key is that first of all, you need to generate compassion to the beings that suffering in samsara. And secondly, you need to give rise to the mind of renunciation. You need to be very aware of what kind of deeds can be done and what can't be done. You need to be very clear of that. You should be clear of that at least. If you believe in karma, if you contemplate upon karma and effect, then you would be able to gain these kinds of merits. On the contrary, the opposite of these benefits are the faults of not contemplating upon karma. If you do not have the contemplation upon karma, then you would not generate the mind of compassion, you would not be able to give rise to the mind of renunciation, and you would not be able to know the correct way of accepting and rejecting. Moreover, Lord Atisha said, the wise will commit absolutely no evil, as it results in the pain of lower realms. The wise ones would not create further negative deeds because they know that the fruition of such negative deeds would lead to negative fruition, such as being reborn in lower realms. And he continues, karma and its result is the only issue of real profundity. Karma is more profound than emptiness and than Tadakatagarbha. The reason is because the teaching of karma is extremely important. More important than beholding the face of our idam deity is the attainment of a stable confidence regarding karma causes and effect. Lord Atisha also set forth an example of karma and its effects. If the root is poisonous, the branches and leaves are also poisonous. If the root is medicinal, the branches and leaves are also medicinal. Similarly, everything done with attachment, hatred, and ignorance is not virtuous. Since he taught nothing other than karma and its effect while in the western Tibet, in Ngari, he became renowned as the so-called karma and its effect master. Atisha, since he kept on giving teachings on refuge, he was called the refuge master. And then when he was giving teachings on compassion, he was called the loving compassion master. When he kept on talking and teaching the teachings on karma and its effects, he was renowned as the karma and its effect master. The genuine masters of the past, they in fact are quite precise when it comes to karma, and they would take it in heart instead of when it comes to karma, we ourselves would only pay lip service but would not take karma very seriously. Chuntumpa then also said, when we fall into the three lower realms, there is no happiness, only suffering. Though that we cannot see hungry ghost realm and we cannot see the hell realm, but we can see the animal realm and we know that there is suffering. And whatever evil and goodness we have created while alive, the results of both will appear sometime in the future. It is definitely in the future waiting for us. Whatever kinds of deeds that you are creating while alive. He continued, if you do not endeavor in virtuous deeds now, you will undoubtedly experience suffering in the future. Also, lords don't be overconfident, for dependent origination is indeed subtle. These are all taught by Venerable Juntumpa. He says that the dependent origination is indeed unfathomable. Even if I were to create one karma in the future lifetimes, I will experience the fruition of it. And at that time, even if I were to feel great regret, I would not be able to purify it in a short period of time. Rather, it takes a very long period of time, such as many aeons, to be purified. So the dependent origination is indeed very subtle, and sometimes it could be quite terrifying. Only the great masters would know such a subtlety of it. Sometimes we frivolously create negative deeds, maybe just as a joke, but the fruition can be quite horrifying. That is because the power of dependent origination is beyond our conception. So Venerable Juntunpa over here kept on again and again to give teachings to the disciples, saying that you have to be very careful, do not be frivolous, and especially do not create frivolous negative deeds, otherwise the fruition is quite horrifying. Potova explained the following: if at the present time we were to give up the 10 non-virtuous deeds and practice the 10 virtues, then even if we were to search for the 3 lower realms, we would not find them. If, having abandoned the 10 virtuous deeds, we carelessly commit the 10 non-virtuous, then even though we were to search for the higher realms and liberation, we would wander about without finding them at all. You would not be able to go to the higher realms at all. Potova then continues that only karma and its results are extremely profound. Even emptiness can be understood through logical reasoning. The Buddha who is omniscient would be able to know the extreme subtlety of karma and would know the extensiveness of karma. The mundane beings would not be able to know the karmic causes and fruitions. Emptiness, on the other hand, though very profound, but it can be understood from logical reasonings. For example, the Vajra splinter, the diamond splinter, and so on and so forth. Through those 4 different kinds of reasonings and logical inference, you would be able to understand emptiness, but karma, it is not. It is only known by the Buddha. Puchonwa says, in my old age, I have now finally met with the wise and the fool. That is the sutra, the wise and the fool sutra. Ponzo Rinpoche, before his passing into parinirvana, he also gave the teaching of the Wise and the Fool Sutra, as well as the Sutra of the 100 karmic stories. That is why many people in our academy would pay great attention to karmic causes and fruitions. Then Kalumpa said to Puchonwa, the spiritual friend has taught that karma and its effects alone are important, but isn't just this bit of teaching on karma and its effect difficult to teach, study, and practice? Puchonwa answers, so it is. He said that if you don't understand the causes and fruitions, then even if you were to engage in the steady contemplation and practice for 10 years or 20 years, and even if you were to abandon your homeland, and even if you were to take renunciation to become a monastic or to just be a lay practitioner, all of those kinds of forms do not matter. In fact, in your mind and on your action, if you do not implement the trust and the correct way of accepting and rejecting the deeds according to causes and fruition, then none of those above stated are valuable. This is really a key and pithy instruction given by this particular commentary. I really hope that you can read into it. When Lari Tongpa requested instructions from Chengangwa said, "My Lord, I regard the contemplation on the effects of karma as nothing other than oral instructions." Lari Tongpa went to seek pithy instruction from Chengangwa. He gave the instruction that you need to contemplate upon causes and fruitions. You need to contemplate that the karma is unfathomable. I believe the teachings of karma is included in both the preliminary practices as well as the memorandum of it and words of my perfect teacher, as well as the opening the gate of the mind training. There are lots of teachings included in the Sutra of 100 Karmic Stories, as well as the Sutra of Wise and Fool. It talks about even a very small deed that's carried out would result in aeons and aeons and fruition. And those kinds of negative fruition would be very difficult to confess, to pacify them. That is why many great masters, before they would give teachings on the Vajrayana teachings, they would give the teachings on the four reminders. And then Karakpa said the cause from which the suffering of the lower realms appear are negative actions and evil, so give them up. Sharawa explains the following: being found of the also high teachings without studying the effects of karma is like building a castle on top of ice. If you were to receive teachings on Mahāti, the Zen teachings, the great Madhyamika, and all of those high teachings, if you do not have the foundation of the study and deep belief of causes and fruition, then it doesn't matter how many great empowerments of Ati that you've received or pith instructions of Ati that you've received, all of those kinds of high teachings would collapse if you do not believe in causes and conditions. I think the now Buddhist practitioners had not been brought up in a good environment where the education of karma is implemented. That is why a few days ago I asked the people to practice the protection of their own three gates. But after that, I still heard lots of frivolous speech of speaking ill of others. That really made me feel a sense of renunciation. I felt that my teaching maybe is not useful. It is not having any effects on you. If some of you have lots of karmic debt, then maybe it is better for you not to stay here to study, contemplate, and practice. Rather, it might be better for you to stay in solitude, to chant Bodhisattva mantra, to abide at solitude, rather than getting into crowds of people to engage in debates and give Dharma teachings or listening to Dharma teachings. Though those kinds of behaviors and activities are quite noble, and there are a great way of engaging in practice of a high level, but if you do not even have faith in causes and conditions, if you do not have sincerity when it comes to acting out on choosing the correct way of accepting and refraining from different kinds of actions, then whatever you do, even it may appear to be virtuous deeds, it is still just a form, an image. You're performing this lip service, and it is not meaningful to your mind stream at all. It is not meaningful to your present life nor of the future lifetimes. The Gyushi indeed is quite to the point. I believe there are some mundane beings. They were brought up in such a way that they pay great attention to causes and fruitions. So they pay a great deal of attention to their 3 gates. But there are definitely another great group of mundane beings. At the very beginning, they pay attention to concentrations, but later their actions continue to decline, to corrupt. In that way, it might be better for you not to study the Dharma if you continue this corrupted path. We need to look at ourselves, whether you indeed have a sincere belief and trust in karma. If you don't have the sincere belief in karma, then whatever kinds of high teachings that you receive is really not meaningful to you. That is why great masters of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, they would consider the 4 contemplations, especially contemplation upon the impermanence of life, and the correct choice in karma is the most important. Before you develop true trust in causes and fruitions, whatever kinds of high Dharma teachings you collect is really not meaningful, because it is just like building an architecture on ice. Whatever little things that you encounter, all of those high practices would collapse. You need to remember that. Moreover, from Gyaltsen Tongmei himself, all those in the lower realms are tormented by numerous sufferings, such as heat and cold, hunger and thirst, and devouring one another. It continues, since all the happiness and suffering of noble and vile beings are impelled and completed by their virtue and non-virtue, do not commit evil, even at the cost of your life, and always endeavoring the virtuous Dharma. Thus he taught and practiced accordingly. Jirgana jira long chubai, chubum solen roba jurvara sho.